Greetings, family, and welcome to another edition of KSOL Black Talk Radio, the new black media. Well, it looks like Nicki Minaj is being criticized by human rights activists ahead of Saudi Arabia concert. Nicki Minaj is being criticized by human rights activists for her decision to perform this month at a music festival in Saudi Arabia, a repressive kingdom that treats women and minorities as second-class citizens. Minaj has accepted an invitation to bring her provocative lyrics and dance to a stage at the Jeddah World Fest. The alcohol-free event for concert-goers 16 and older is set to take place at the King Abdullah Sports Stadium in Red Sea City, according to the Human Rights Foundation, which sent a letter to Minaj asking for her to withdraw. Quote, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is the individual who authorized and is financing your seven-figure performance at the event. I am writing to urgently inform you of the human rights crisis in Saudi Arabia, wrote Human Rights Foundation CEO Thor Halvorsen. So of course I had to do a little soul searching and find out who Thor Halvorsen is, only to find out that he actually has some additional names to his name, Thor Halvorsen. Mendoza is also a part of his name. His father and mother are both Venezuelan, and he is the human rights activist for Venezuela as well as a film producer. The lengthy letter explains in great detail the rights violations that have come under the kingdom's absolute monarchy and legal system that is in large measure based on Sharia law as advocated by the Wahhabi movement. So family, in 2014, 2 peaceful dissidents were sentenced to death and 5 more to long prison terms for attending demonstrations by the Shia minority and for helping journalists cover the event, Halvorsen points out. He also notes that hundreds of online activists have been arrested and detained. In 2013, 7 critics of government were given prison terms of 5 to 10 years for their Facebook posts. Halvorsen and his HRF Human Rights Foundation are best known for smuggling copies of the movie The Interview into North Korea after that nation hacked into the email system of Sony Pictures in an effort to stop the release of the film, as it is critical of leader Kim Jong-un. The note to Minaj also focuses on Saudi Arabia's abuse of gays and lesbians. Quote, you recently celebrated Pride Week to stand in solidarity with the LGBTQ community. Yet, if you move forward with this performance, you will be condoning and serving the public relations needs of a government that executes homosexuals for the crime of being who they are, writes Halvorsen. Not addressed in the letter to Minaj is Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post columnist who was assassinated at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, an incident that caused an international backlash last year. The Saudi government changed its story several times before condemning the murder, and the United Nations said the country was responsible for the premeditated extrajudicial execution of Khashoggi, whom Time magazine named its 2018 Person of the Year. What is Minaj thinking? Halvorsen asked The Hollywood Reporter. How does she participate at World Pride one week and then hop on a jet to collect millions from a regime that beheaded 5 gay men this past April, Halverson told The Hollywood Reporter that Minaj would be performing, quote, while the women in the audience will be wearing a full abaya and separated from the men. Not one woman present is allowed to be there without a male guardian or without permission from a male in her household. The Human Rights Foundation sent its letter via email to Minaj, as well as to the Blueprint Group care of manager, producer Cortez Bryant and manager G. Robertson, though she split with those three a few months ago. Another letter also was sent to Robert Stevenson and Ben Adelson of Republic Records, a division of Universal Music Group. Miss Minaj, as you can see, you are scheduled to perform at a state-sponsored event in one of the most repressive regimes on earth, a country whose leader has also led a relentless campaign to silence women's rights activists, Halverson wrote in his letter. Many of the women who have advocated to lift the driving ban in Saudi Arabia are currently in jail and being subjected to torture that includes electric shocks, flogging, and rape. Well, Minaj was unavailable for comment. So family, as I stated, I had to look up who this Thor Halverson Mendoza is. And not only is he the human rights activist for Venezuela and a film producer, but he's also skipping a whole lot of the truth or just leaving it out conveniently while trying to attack a black American, traditional black American female from getting her bag. He's trying to stop her from performing in a country he has nothing to do with, because as he sits there and cites the human rights violations, let's take a look at what's in the headlines today that I just found just a minute ago. This is the headlines in the news right now. Venezuela abuse report drives protesters back to the streets. Now, you would ask yourself, why isn't Thor Halverson more concerned about the abuses, the human rights abuses that are happening right in his own country? So I wanted to find out a little bit more about this story, only to find out that these protesters are protesting for no more torture. They're protesting for no more torture, and they're tired of the dictatorship. And then you have Thor Halverson worrying about Nicki Minaj. I have a problem with white males, whether they're from Venezuela or bumfuck Egypt. It just doesn't matter. They all have the same white supremacist mindset. They're always worried about what black people are doing. I don't even care for Nicki Minaj per se, but she is my sister, and for that, I have an obligation to protect my sister. And so, looking at the headlines, I'd say that Thor Halverson Mendoza has some work in his own front and backyard that he should be concerned about, namely the torture and the abuses of the Venezuela people in their own streets. He should be more concerned about that than Nicki Minaj and what she's doing in Saudi Arabia. Because you see, the second part of the equation is we have human rights abuses right here in America. For that matter, she's leaving a country where white men are getting away with shooting and killing unarmed black men and getting away with murder. And you are talking about the injustices in Saudi Arabia. Thor Halverson, you should have several seats. But then there's another underlying agenda that was revealed in this article, and that's his stand with the LGBTQVWXYZ committee and movement. This guy actually went in to telling Nicki Minaj about the abuses of gay people and homosexuals in Saudi Arabia as if she has anything to do with that. He's a human rights activist. He should be fighting that government, not Nicki Minaj. And again, like I said, he has problems in his own country. What is he so concerned with? This guy is going in trying to lecture Nicki Minaj about 5 gay men who were beheaded by the regime of Saudi Arabia, but he didn't even mention none of the hundreds of black men and women who have been murdered in the streets of America. Where Nicki Minaj is coming from. See, even white-skinned people from Venezuela, no matter where you come from, when you're on the planet Earth and you have skin that looks like him, you have a tendency to have white supremacist mindsets and ideologies. And I'd say that this man fits that description. Instead of being so concerned about Nicki Minaj, Thor, Halverson, Mendoza, you really should be concerned about the injustices, the torture and abuses in your own country, in Venezuela. Sucker. I wouldn't trust this guy, Thor Halverson Mendoza, to save my life. This is KSOL Black Talk Radio, hoping you like and share. And if you haven't already, subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.